First, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello everyone, welcome to Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. I wanted to pull this up here. That is our live shot from Ski Bowl, looking at Mount Hood. It is amazing out there right now. I kind of wish I was able to get up there tonight, but very happy to be here with all of you. Regardless, though, that's an amazing shot. It reminds us how great the Pacific Northwest is, and we're going to be talking about the Pacific Northwest during this segment. Again, I am Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now. We are here every weekday starting around 1 p.m., going throughout the afternoon, covering a wide range of topics on this show. I always say that because that's what we do. And you can find us at KPTV.com or the Fox 12 Oregon app or YouTube, so plenty of places to watch us after we are live as well. There is a competition coming up called the Pacific Northwest Survival Games, and that is what we're going to be discussing here today, what that is and exactly everything that's involved. It's pretty exciting, and we've got one of the co-founders right here with us, Tony. And Tony, thank you, for joining us here. I found out about this actually through a coworker here, and I had to find out more. I thought this was really interesting, but to start off, can you just tell us about what this competition is and maybe why it is that you wanted to found it to begin with?
Absolutely, and thank you for having me. So the Pacific Northwest Survival Games is a survival workshop and competition. We actually designed this to be a backyard barbecue last year. We wanted to get together with a bunch of people and do some survival challenges, do some bushcraft skills. And my background is in marketing and branding, and so naturally I made it look pretty cool. I gave it a logo. And then we put it on Facebook and sort of invited all of our friends, but we made it public, and all of a sudden everybody thought it was this big organization, this big event. A lot of people were saying that they had thought that it had been around for years and that they were just the last ones to find out about it. And then we even had celebrity survivalists calling us and asking if they could be part of the show. And we were like, this isn't a show, this is just a barbecue. And so very, very quickly we had to rent a large piece of land. We had to buy more gear, and we just had to we had momentum. So, you have to step up to the plate, and when you have momentum, you can't let it die. And so it just grew. And so what this is now become in the last year is a emergency survival skills workshop and competition. And the reason why we add the competition elements is because people love watching Naked and Afraid, and they love watching Survivor and Alone, all these shows, or on YouTube, and they think that they can do these skills. But by the time they actually get out to the woods and go camping, they don't really want to be more uncomfortable than they already are. So they're going to grab a lighter, they're going to grab whatever modern tools that they have, and not actually test themselves to see if they can do these skills. But if you put a trophy out there, and you turn it into a competition, now all of a sudden everybody's motivated to practice these skills and do them to the best of their ability. And that's sort of the motivating factor for all the contestants.
That's okay. So they have a goal in mind. You put that out there, put the shiny object out there, the trophy, and then people are going to be more likely to do that. And it's funny you mentioned all of those shows. I've watched all those shows as well, and I've been camping my whole life. And sometimes you do watch those, and you're like, oh yeah, I bet I could do that. But it's a lot harder than it looks, and especially some of those specific skills. So when it comes to the education side of things and learning those, can you walk through some of the different skills that you have people learn as part of this, as part of the games and the competition?
Yeah, so it's a 2-day competition, and there'll be 7 skills and 7 challenges. And so the way it works is you get a 30-minute skills lesson from a celebrity expert survivalist. We've brought in people from Alone, Naked and Afraid, Netflix, people that are just experts in their fields when it comes to survival and bushcraft. So you get a 30-minute lesson, and then you have to compete in a 60-minute challenge. So you're competing against the clock and against each other. And the 7 challenges are, the first one is shelter building. And that one's actually gonna be really fun because the way we test it to see if the shelters are built properly is we actually have local firemen coming out with their fire hoses, and they're gonna blast all the shelters to see how much water penetrates the shelter. And then all the contestants are going to be wearing these jumpsuits that's going to absorb the water. And then we'll take the jumpsuits from them, weigh them on a scale, and then figure out how heavy they are, how much water has collected in their jumpsuit. And obviously the ones that are the lightest weight, those are the winners. Then we're going to do weapons building and shooting. And so they'll be making primitive bows and spear guns, and of course, arrows and spears. And then they'll have to do a series of obstacle courses to test those. And we're actually really excited about that one too, because we're doing something really unique. We actually got a sky cam that you would normally mount a camera to that would go over a stadium, and we're hanging the archery targets from it in the middle of the trees. And so the target's going to go back and forth through the trees, and the contestants are going to have to, weave in and out of the trees to shoot the target as it's zipping by. Then we're going to do traps and snares. Then we're going to do a challenge that involves fire, like, emergency fire making. So not primitive fire. That's totally different topic. This is emergency fire. So they'll have to use a cell phone battery to make their fire. And then with that fire, they'll have to then purify water. You don't want any contaminants in there and get diarrhea when you're in an emergency situation. So we're going to teach them how to boil water in a cheap plastic bottle, which most people would assume that it would burst and melt. But if you do it properly, it can boil water in the plastic bottle and be safe enough to drink in an emergency situation. Then the next day we're going to do, for day 2, the first challenge of that day will be the first aid challenge. So they have to stop the bleed, brace the leg, build a stretcher, and then drag their partner to safety. Then after that, we'll do a water carry challenge where they have to build a water vessel out of a log, paracord, and some peanut butter. And it's going to be a really unique way of building it, but they'll be able to carry water long distances in a watertight receptacle. And then finally, for the grand finale, we're going to do the raft building challenge. So they're going to have to build a log raft. It'll be, it's normally teams of 2. We're actually going to double them up. So it'll be teams of 4 building a log raft. They have to use the full hour to build to make it as amazing as possible. And then finally, navigate the river and collect 6 different flags that are hidden on the shore, underwater, up on the hillside, all over the place. And then once they have their 6 flags, then they cross the finish line, and that's our big grand finale. It'll be awesome.
That is a pretty extensive leap from a backyard barbecue to this kind
definitely.
So, coming up with all of this, you mentioned your background is marketing and branding. Do you have a survivalist background or an extensive background in any of this?
No, my background when it comes to this is I've always been like a nature nut. I've always spent a lot of time out in the woods. I'm actually a big mushroom hunter. A lot of people know me for mushroom hunting and foraging. I love wild edibles. A perfect day for me is actually going to the coast, harvesting mussels and crabs, and then driving all the way back up and then going up to Mount Hood on the same day and collecting wild edibles and mushrooms, and then finally going back to the house and just making a feast of like surf and turf from the mountains to the ocean. And I'll do that all in one day. And I've done that a few times. And just get a lot of joy out of that. So, but the more time you spend in nature, the more vulnerable you realize you are. I'm very aware that at any moment I can, be picking a mushroom, squatting down, kind of doing circles as they're all over the place. And all of a sudden I've spun around and I'm just lost. And that's happened a few times actually. And so what are you going to do in that situation is the question. And we want to make sure that not just us, but also others are prepared to deal with any type of emergency. Because obviously nobody goes hiking with the plan of getting lost. It's an accident. You might think it's like just going to be a 30-minute quick hike, and all of a sudden you take the wrong trail, and now all of a sudden you're miles and miles deeper than you thought you were because you couldn't see the sun because of the trees or the clouds. And now you're in a situation. What are you going to do?
Yeah, and we do reports on that all the time of people of that happening to people, and then trying to educate everyone. Like, yes, there's so much wonderful stuff to go do at so many hikes, but yeah, it is easy to have something go wrong if you're not prepared, and it can happen to even the most prepared person too. Something can go wrong. So I think that's a great point there for learning some of these skills. And for the competition side of thing, how does that work? Who are the people that have they already applied for this, or is this something that people apply to? I guess, how does that element fit in?
Yeah, so it's open to everybody. So you could be a total amateur and you're just curious about learning some skills that could potentially save your life in an emergency situation. Or you can be a seasoned vet. And we actually do have competitors this year that have been on Alone, completed the full, or no, not Alone. I'm thinking of Naked and Afraid, where they've actually completed the full 21 days. So these are very talented, experienced survivalists, and they're competing against amateurs. And the reason why we're allowing this is because we've learned that, having experience is obviously super important. But last year when we did this, we noticed that the people that did the best were actually the people that were just naturally good problem solvers. And they're able to adapt and be present in the moment. And some of the people with experience, as embarrassing as it might have been, they were really frustrated because they've done this technique before, but it was under different circumstances or in a different environment, or the materials were slightly different. And when you're in an emergency situation, you don't get to pick and choose, what you have to work with. It's just what you got. And so, yeah, so we'll have a total novelist and then badass experienced survivalist all competing against each other.
Well, talking about bringing in some of those people from those shows, Naked and Afraid is one I would never ever do. That's absolutely not for
Me neither.
myself. Yeah, that's a different level. But having all of these people out there and doing all of this and filming it, people love watching these shows and watching people try to compete like that. And I understand that this is one of the goals of this. Is that right? Turning this into a reality show of some sort?
Yeah. So we filmed it all last year, and then we're going to film again this year. With a smaller crew. For people that don't know, when you're filming a reality show, for every person that you see on camera, there's probably 4 or 5 people off camera. And so if you have 40 contestants, we'd have to have 200 crew out there. So we're not doing that for this one, on August 10th and 11th. But we have a small crew. Everyone's going to be mic'd up. There's going to be cameras rigged up everywhere, body cams, and some really good cinematographers out there. And so what we're doing is we're actually shooting all the test footage, so that way we can meet with the networks, get a deal with them, and move forward. But from what it sounds like, we have quite a bit of interest right now from Netflix, Amazon Prime TV, and Discovery. And so once we're done with this, we'll go have those meetings with them and see if we can get a deal with somebody, and probably film the first season in spring or summer of 2025.
That's great. I mean, and just going from this still really being in its infancy, but getting to this point already where you've grown tremendously. Do you have plans, for more of these where the public can participate in, where people can apply to it, or is that also part of the expansion plan in addition to the reality show?
Absolutely, there'll be a few different options. So the reality show will be 10 days. These epic over-the-top challenges. We have right now the plan is we have letters of intent from Laura Zara. From Naked and Afraid Legends. She's amazing. We have Ray Livingston, who's on Alone, Mountain Men, Blood, Sweat, and Beards. He's phenomenal. And then finally, Tori Bellisi from Mythbusters. And the reason why we wanted to go after somebody that wasn't for the third judge, not a experienced survivalist, is we wanted somebody who was a professional problem solver. And so we were like, oh, Mythbusters is perfect. And so he's really excited. They're all excited. And that's going to be really fun. So outside of that, though, we are still going to do our 2-day versions, and we'll probably do 2 or 3 of those next year. But we're also, fingers crossed, we're in talks right now with Boy Scouts of America and potentially doing some sort of deal with them, because they already have the infrastructure, they have the manpower, and we could actually have survival games happening all across the country and help prepare millions of people if the worst was to ever happen.
Well, Tony, this is really, really fascinating stuff. And I mean, I think that's it. You're number one, learning these skills is important for anybody, especially if you enjoy the outdoors, and to have that in your tool belt in the case something happens. And also, it's entertaining. It's entertaining to watch as well. So you've kind of hit on both of those with this, and really cool that's happening here. I guess the last question I had, I didn't ask this, and I'm sure you can't give out the exact location, but where, generally speaking, does this take place?
So the 2-day games, and I'm fine with telling everybody, it's at the Malala Ripple in Malala, and the public is welcome to come watch. Just bring a folding chair or camping chair, and you're welcome to come watch. You'll get a guest pass when you arrive, and if you want to camp overnight and join us for all the festivities, including we're going to feast at night. We have like a 90-pound pig that's going to be on a rotisserie. We have live music from Christopher Worth, who we are so stoked to have come perform that night. And then around the campfire, EJ Snyder from Naked and Afraid Legends, and Biko Wright from Alone, they're going to be sitting around the fire. Those are some of the instructors. They're going to be sitting around the fire just telling stories. And so if you want to come hang out and stay the night with us and camp, those passes are $50.
Nice. And so there you go. So people can go enjoy it. I think Biko was in one of these. I grabbed the wrong one, but we showed him here just a little bit ago. But so the public can go out and enjoy that too. And what's the website or the best way for everybody to read up on everything that's going on?
Yeah, if you go to PNWSurvivalGames.com and then click on the 2-day event, and you'll see all the information. You'll see the address, and you'll be able to buy spectator/camp passes for $50 on there.
Well, Tony, thanks for joining us here. Really appreciate learning about this, and congratulations on the success of this, turning it from fun with your friends to pitching reality shows to Netflix and Discovery Channel. That's a pretty good growth right there. And
fingers crossed.
Looking forward to seeing where this goes as well. And as you mentioned, people can come out and actually watch this themselves here coming up. So thanks for joining us here today to talk about this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. And for everybody who's watching, again, this is Fox 12 Now. I always remind you, we are live here from the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom, but you can watch all these segments afterward and share them. So please do so. We do have more coming up this afternoon. So we got a long day of programming here. We're in our second hour, so at 2:30, that is about 10 minutes from now. I had to double check. We're going to be talking to Intel about their use of artificial intelligence, both at the Olympics and some of the things they're doing with athletes there, but also how AI is helping people with disabilities navigate their surroundings at the Portland Airport for one, PSU, and plenty of other places. So a pretty in-depth discussion about that coming up here in just about 10 minutes. You can come right back to whatever platform you are on and join me then. We will regroup. I'll talk to you in about 10 minutes. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.